episode is Volkswagen.
Volkswagen Aktiengesellschaft.
Shortened to VW.
VW.
Is a German automaker founded in 1937 by the German Labor Front, known for the iconic Beetle and headquartered in Wolfsburg.
It is the flagship mark of the Volkswagen Group, the largest automaker by worldwide sales in 2016 and 2017.
The group's biggest market is in China, which delivers 40% of its sales for 2 million cars sold in China for 2018 and profits. Volkswagen translates to people's car in German.
The company's current international advertising slogan is just Volkswagen, referencing the name's meaning.
Volkswagen was established in 1937 by the German Labor Front, Deutscher Reichsfront in Berlin.
In the early 1930s, cars were a luxury. Most Germans could afford nothing more elaborate than a motorcycle.
Only one German out of 50 owned a car.
Seeking a potential new market, some car makers began independent People's Car, rejects the Mercedes 170h, Adler Autobahn, Steer 55, and Hanamag 1.3L, among others.
The trend was not new, as Dale Perry-90 is credited with having conceived the basic design in the mid-1920s.
Joseph Gans developed the standard Superior, going as far as advertising it as the German Volkswagen.
In Germany, the company Hanamag Mass produced the 2/10 PS Canistrate, a small, cheap rear engine car from 1925 to 1928.
Also, in Czechoslovakia, the Hans-Ledwinka's Tatra T77, a very popular car amongst the German elite, was becoming smaller and more affordable at each revision.
Ferdinand Porsche, a well-known designer for high-end vehicles and race cars, has been trying for years to get a manufacturer interested in a small car suitable for a family.
He built a car named the Volkswagen from the ground up in 1933, using many popular ideas and several of his own, putting together a car with an air-cooled rear engine, torsion bar suspension, and a needle shape. The front hood rounded for better aerodynamics, necessary as it had a small engine.
In 1934, with many of the above projects still in development or early stages of production, Adolf Hitler became involved, ordering the production of a basic vehicle capable of transporting 2 adults and 3 children at 100 km/h, 62 miles per hour.
He wanted all German citizens to have access to cars.
The People's Car would be available to citizens of the Third Reich through a savings plan at 990 Reichsmarks, equivalent to 3,747 in 2009, about the price of a small motorcycle. The average income being around 32 Rm a week. Despite heavy lobbying in favor of one of the existing projects, it soon became apparent that private industry could not turn out a car for only 990 Rm.
Thus, Hitler chose to sponsor an all-new, state-owned factory using Ferdinand Porsche's design, with some of Hitler's design constraints, including an air-cooled engine so nothing could freeze.
The intention was that ordinary Germans would buy the car by means of a saving scheme. 5 Mark die must du sparen, whilst du imagine wage in fahren. 5 marks a week you must put aside if in your own car you want to ride, which around 336,000 people eventually paid into.
However, the entire project was financially unsound, and only the Nazi Party made it possible to provide funding.
Prototypes of the car called the KDF Wagen, German, Kraftwerksfreude, Stranger Joy, appeared from 1938 onwards. The first cars have been produced in Stuttgart.
The car already had its distinctive round shape and air-cooled, flat-4, rear-mounted engine.
The VW car was just one of many KDF programs, which included things such as tours and outings.
The prefix Volks, peoples, was not just applied to cars, but also to other products in Germany, the Volksempfänger radio receiver, for instance.
On 28 May 1937, Gesellschaft zur Vorbereitung der deutschen Volkswagen GmbH, Company for the Preparation of the German Volkswagen Limited, or Geschiver for short, was established by the Deutsche Reichsfront in Berlin.
More than a year later, on 16 September 1938, it was renamed to Volkswagen Work GmbH.
Erwin Comenda, the long-standing auto union chief designer, part of Ferdinand Porsche's hand-picked team, developed the car body of the prototype, which was recognizably the Beetle known today.
It was one of the first cars designed with the aid of a wind tunnel, a method used for German aircraft design since the early 1920s.
The car designs were put through rigorous tests and achieved a record, breaking million miles of testing before being finished. The construction of the new factory started in May 1938 in the new town of KDF Wagens, modern-day Wolfsburg, which had been purpose-built for the factory workers.
This factory had only produced a handful of cars by the time war started in 1939.
None were actually delivered to any holder of the completed savings stamp books. The one Type 1 Cabriolet was presented to Hitler on 20 April 1944, his 55th birthday. War changed production to military vehicles. The Type 82 Gewelwagen, bucket car, utility vehicle, VW's most common wartime model, and the amphibious Limousine, manufactured for German forces.
As was common with much of the production in Nazi Germany during the war, slave labor was utilized in the Volkswagen plant, for example, from Arbeitsdorf concentration camp.
The company would admit in 1998 that it used 15,000 slaves during the war effort.
German historians estimated that 80% of Volkswagen's wartime workforce was slave labor.
Many of the slaves were reported to have been supplied from the concentration camps upon request from plant managers.
A lawsuit was filed in 1998 by survivors for restitution for the forced labor.
Volkswagen would set up a voluntary restitution fund. The company owes its post-war existence largely to one man, wartime British Army officer Major Ivan Hurst, REME.
In April 1945, KDF Stand and its heavily bombed factory were captured by the Americans and subsequently handed over to the British, within whose occupation zone the town and factory fell.
The factories were placed under the control of Saddleworth Warrenhurst, and a civilian military governor with the occupying forces.
At first, one plan was to use it for military vehicle maintenance and possibly dismantle and ship it to Britain.
Since it had been used for military production, though not of KDF wages, and had been in Hurst's words, a political animal rather than a commercial enterprise, technically making it liable for destruction under the terms of the Potsdam Agreement, the equipment could have been salvaged as war reparations.
Allied dismantling policy changed in late 1946 to mid-1947, though heavy industry continued to be dismantled until 1951.
One of the factory's wartime JDF Legion cars have been taken to the factory for repairs and abandoned there.
First had it repainted green and demonstrated it to British Army headquarters.
Short of light transport, in September 1945 the British Army was persuaded to place a vital order for 20,000 cars.
However, production facilities have been massively disrupted. There was a refugee crisis at and around the factory, and some parts, such as carburetors, were unavailable.
With striking humanity and great engineering and management ingenuity, Hearst and his German assistant Heinrich Nordhoff, who went on to run the Wolfsburg facility after the military government ended in 1949, and helped to stabilize the acute social situation while simultaneously re-establishing production.
Hearst, for example, used his fine engineering experience to arrange the manufacture of carburetors, the original producers being effectively lost in the Russian zone.
The first few hundred cars went to personnel from the occupying forces and to the German post office.
Some British service personnel were allowed to take their Beetles back to the United Kingdom when they were demobilized.
In 1986, Hearst explained how it was commonly misunderstood that he had run Wolfsburg as a British Army major.
The defeated German staff, he said, were initially sullen and unresponsive, having been conditioned by many years of Nazism, and they were sometimes unresponsive to orders.
At Nordhoff's suggestion, he sent back to England for his officer's uniform and from then on, had no difficulty in having his instructions followed.
Hearst can be seen, photographed at Wolfsburg in his uniform, although he was not actually a soldier at the time but a civilian member of the military government.
The title of major was sometimes used by someone who had left the army as a courtesy, but Hearst chose not to use the title. The post-war industrial plans for Germany set out rules that governed which industries Germany was allowed to retain.
These rules set German car production at a maximum of 10% of 1936 car production.
By 1946, the factory produced 1,000 cars a month, a remarkable feat, considering it was still in disrepair.
Owing to roof and window damage, production had to stop when it rained, and the company had to order new vehicles for steel for production.
The car and its town changed their Second World War era names to Volkswagen and Wolfsburg, respectively, and production increased.
It was still unclear what was to become of the factory.
It was offered to representatives from the American, Australian, British, and French motor industries.
Famously, all rejected it.
After an inspection of the plant, Sir William Roots, head of the British Roots Group, told Hearst the project would fail within 2 years and that the car is quite unattractive to the average motor car buyer. It is too ugly and too noisy. If you think you are going to build cars in this place, you're a bloody fool, young man.
The official report said, to build the car commercially would be a completely uneconomic enterprise.
In an ironic twist of fate, Volkswagen manufactured a locally built version of Roots' Hillman Avenger in Argentina in the 1980s, long after Roots had gone bankrupt at the hands of Chrysler in 1978, the Beetle outliving the Avenger by over 30 years. Ford representatives were equally critical.
March 1948, the British offered the Volkswagen company to Ford, free of charge.
Henry Ford II, the son of Ansel Ford, traveled to West Germany for discussions.
Heinz Nordhoff was also present, as well as Ernest Breech, chairman of the board for Ford.
Henry Ford II looked to Breech for his opinion, and Breech said, "Mr. Ford, I don't think what we're being offered here is worth a dime." Ford passed on the offer, leaving Volkswagen to rebuild itself under Nordhoff's leadership. We will continue about Volkswagen in part 2, so stay tuned.